Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with Craig. It's Monday, which means that the week is just starting out. So, get settled in, get used to the idea that you are here for the next 5 days. But that also means that I will be coming to you live for the next 5 days. Here, having coffee together, commiserating as we are working under the yoke of oppression of the man. Okay, maybe not. Maybe that's a little overdoing it. But hey, the point is, we're going to be here. We're going to have some great conversations over this week. So please, before we get started, remember to like and share these videos. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure to like our Facebook page. All of those things. Let people know. Let your friends know about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights, encouraging you guys to be a part of the fight. Now, one of the things that I wanted to let you guys know about being a part of that fight is we're actually doing a special membership drive. Now, there's two cool things about this membership drive. All right, the first thing is that if you become a member, you get a chance to earn this Chris Vector. Yes, it is a very, very interesting looking firearm. So we know that you guys tend to like the unique ones. So this is actually a very nice, very interesting firearm. You guys can look it up. You'll get all the specs and everything on it. So if you become a member, you'll be entered to win this particular firearm. The other thing is that membership right now is only $15. That's right, $15 in order to join the Firearms Policy Coalition and become a part of the fight. So if you haven't already joined, please make sure to join. All you have to do, follow the link in the description to this video, and bam, you will be right there. So please make it a point. Please make it a point to do that. It's going to be busy times right now. So make sure that you guys get plugged in. All right, let's move right along. So let's get on to today's topic. Now, I'd like to consider myself somewhat of a decent speaker, right? I have very high standards for when I hear someone else speak, for speeches that really, get me going and really get me fired up. Well, you guys have probably heard a speech from this gentleman. He is a combat veteran, did 2 tours, and he's a representative in the Virginia state legislature. He's a delegate. He's actually running against Senator Tim Kaine, Democrat out of Virginia, for their Senate seat. Now, this individual, they were in the middle of having a discussion about firearms, about school safety, about the Second Amendment, and basically about gun control. And he gave an impassioned speech. That I'm not going to play the entire thing for you because, well, that would just be a little bit too much. But he gave such an impassioned speech that I really felt like you guys needed to hear this. Now, to make a long story short, really in essence, what this guy did was he really pointed out and said a lot of the things that I happen to believe, and I think that all of us happen to believe, and did it quite frankly in a fashion that was beyond. I mean, that was as he delivered it as well as possibly could, and I think gave really the true sentiments, I think, of all of us. The first thing he talked about when he talked about having this reasonable discussion, a reasonable debate on gun control, was he gave a list of the things that if we were truly being reasonable, right? These are things that one would think that we would be open to hearing. So let's see what he had to say.
So over the last several days, Mr. Speaker, there's been a lot of discussion about an open and honest debate with respect to school shootings, gun violence, gun control, etc. And an open and honest debate, as I understand it, is one that would rely on data, facts, evidence, analysis, reason, logic, etc., etc. And I'm certainly willing to have that debate. I think if we were going to look seriously at school shootings and gun control, we would analyze things like, why do all mass shootings seem to take place in gun-free zones? Wouldn't it be reasonable to test whether or not the efficacy of gun-free zones have actually achieved what their intended intent is? We'd start to look at most of these shooters come from broken homes. What sort of government policies have actually encouraged broken homes? We could look at various status with those areas within the United States and around the world that have strict gun control measures and what their crime rates look like, whether it's Chicago, New York City, Washington, D.C., and others that have incredibly strict gun laws, and yet for some reason it hasn't seemed to stop the gun violence in those particular areas. We can look at the analysis out of 538, which is considered more of a left-of-center data analysis think tank, where you had several analysts now confirm through the data that they were looking at, not just in the United States, but in Canada, Great Britain, and Australia, that they were shocked that the data did not support what they thought gun control measures would actually achieve. We can look at the number of cases within the United States where a gun has been used for self-defense. Estimates range everywhere from 100,000 uses to close to 1 million uses within the United States. Some of the other things that we would look at, and some of the things I would hope we would have bipartisan support for, all of us agree that we need to make sure that our students are better protected when they go to schools. One of the things that we would look at is arming certain teachers. Not every teacher, but a teacher that is comfortable with it, is former law enforcement, is former military.
So, in essence, what he wanted to do is he just wanted to, first of all, he was laying out these are things that we should be looking at. If we're having an open and honest discussion, right? These are some things that one would think that common sense would tell you should be a part of the discussion. But we know, that they're not. And they're not because, well, hey, there's an ulterior motive. And not only is there an ulterior motive, but the methods that they use in terms of having this conversation, well, let's just say they are less than ethical and less than honest. Let's get into some of those points that he made.
The other side of this debate will only accept one quote-unquote solution to this problem, and that is tearing apart or gutting the Second Amendment. And I understand, we're going to mention just a couple of the bills that were done this year, right? Background checks, getting rid of bump stocks. If you're wondering the other reason why we can't have an honest debate over this one is because, quite frankly, I don't think any of us on this side of the aisle believe you when you say that's all you want to do. It'll be bump stocks, it'll be background checks, then it'll be different kind of background checks that register the guns. Then after that, it'll be we need to ban assault weapons. What's an assault weapon? Something that looks scary. Then after that, it'll be semi-automatic rifles. After that, it'll be semi-automatic handguns. Then it'll be revolvers, shotguns. Because when the policies fail to produce the results you are promising to your constituents, you'll be back with more reasons on why we've got to infringe on Second Amendment rights. The other reason why it's really difficult to have an honest and open debate about this is because of members of this body comparing members on this side of the aisle to Nazis. Members on the other side of the aisle saying that when a 24-year-old teacher gets up and says that the whole debate is between the Second Amendment or her life, that's a false dilemma. And quite frankly, one of the ones that I found the most offensive, along with being compared to Nazis, was being compared to segregationists. I just want to remind someone very quickly, it was not our party that supported slavery, that fought women's suffrage, that rounded up tens of thousands of Asian Americans and put them in concentration camps, that supported Jim Crow, that supported segregation, or supported mass resistance. That wasn't our party. That was the Democrat Party. Now, I'm thrilled that Democrats no longer believe that, and I don't believe that a single current member of this body who is a Democrat ever believe those things, but I would really appreciate it if every time you want to make a powerful point, you don't project the sins, the atrocities, and the injustices that the Democratic Party perpetrated on others onto us. So if we want to have an open and honest debate, I am all for that. Let's do that. But it does start with a certain degree of mutual respect. It starts with a certain degree of not assuming that the only reason why we believe in the Second Amendment is because the NRA paid us off. Well, if that's the sort of logic you want to use, why don't you go take a look at how much money the NRA spends and how much money Planned Parenthood spends? Because when I get up here and I talk about abortion, I don't assume that you're all bought and paid for by Planned Parenthood.
Oh, no, he didn't. Oh, no, he did not go there. Oh, no, he did not just break them down the way they deserved to be broken down. Because, see, those are the things you know, Democrats or the anti-civil rights, because they like to claim they're about civil rights, but they're not about civil rights. They're about special rights for special people. And they absolutely positively refuse to accept, one, that a lot of the things that they try to project on others, that they try to project on those of us who do believe in liberty, are actually the sins of their forefathers, of the people who came before them. And they refuse to accept that. They refuse to accept that that there are other solutions beyond just banning guns, beyond just their particular perspective on some of these issues. And they don't really want to even take the time to look at the possibility that there are other solutions. And, you know, and that is highly offensive. It is. Because, see, there's a heartfelt reason why we believe what we believe. And it's rooted in history, and it's rooted in fact. And if they would just stop and objectively listen and pay attention, they might be able to, I'm not saying they necessarily will agree, but they at least might recognize and understand why we believe what we believe.
So when people on this side talk about the importance of the Second Amendment, please understand it's not just some base philosophical conviction that we all have. It is rooted in the idea that while we may be a post-Enlightenment society, the vast majority of horrible atrocities that we've seen have happened in those post-Enlightenment societies. Has happened as a result of government systematically disarming citizens and claiming themselves to be the sole responsible party for their security, and then turning on those same citizens and punishing them. That's the most egregious cases. But in the individual cases of self-defense, that's why the people on this side of the aisle hold the Second Amendment in such high esteem, because we honestly believe that you have an inherent right to defend yourself. And your ability to defend yourself should not be excluded to your size. Firearms provides someone that is weaker and not as fast the ability to actually defend themselves from a stronger attacker. Yes, we are going to have a problem with so-called solutions which infringe on people's liberty under the promise the government will provide for their security. Because ultimately in this last school shooting, we had a perfect example of government being engaged over 30 times and still failing to provide security for those students.
And that's pretty much it. See, and let's just nail this down. And this is the biggest challenge. And this is why when people start talking about this whole quote unquote being partisan, the thing is this. Part of where we're at is there's a fundamental disagreement as to the extent to which government should play in our lives. There are those who believe that every solution out there comes from government. And there are those out there who believe that government should be nothing more than a safety net or a backstop, but shouldn't be the primary group that we go to for solutions to problems. Because the reality is, every time you depend on government to be the primary deliverer of solutions, they clearly and utterly fail. And that's because government is not designed to be able to do that. We've created a system of government that is slow, that is inept to change, but that's also it's also like that in order to help reduce the likelihood of corruption. Now, I can't say that it's been perfect because, quite frankly, it hasn't. It hasn't all worked out. But where we are right now is the more we hand over to government, the less they're able to do, the less they're able to provide. In this particular case, what we're looking at is in Florida was a failure of government to act on multiple levels. And had individuals at that school who desired to be able to defend themselves been in a position where they were not only allowed to, but encouraged to, trained in order to do so, you might not have seen the number of casualties that you saw. Because one of the other things that's noted in this particular gentleman's speech, you know, he notes earlier where he's talking about the individual use of firearms in order to protect oneself. What the folks at Everytown and the New York Times and all of these folks, Huffington Post, all these folks never acknowledge is that there are many times where the individual is able to draw their weapon and the perpetrator flees. Meaning, a lot of times, not even a shot is fired. And in times when the shot doesn't even hit, or it doesn't reach the point of a mass shooting. because an individual, an armed citizen, decided to stand up and fight, stand up and defend themselves and defend those close to them. I think that we need to really stop and listen to individuals like this when they share their perspective. I think they need to be given the floor at every opportunity. We need to be giving individuals like this the floor. They need to be listening. This is a guy who clearly needs to be in the Senate. Clearly, because he also sounds like an individual who's not going to be mealy-mouthed about it either. And that's another thing, folks. You know what? I am tired of politicians out there being mealy-mouthed, being coward, too scared to speak out on behalf of our rights. Right? They're afraid that the other side is going to make them look bad, or that the media is going to make them look bad. You know what? I'm like this. People, think about me what you want, but I'm like this. I say what I believe is right. You don't have to agree. You don't have to agree. But you will never question where I stand. And that's what I ask of anybody. Because for the most part, these people who want to institute these laws, and Delegate Freitas is right, I don't believe that that's all they want. What they want is they want to eventually ban all firearms, ban all firearm accessories so that they can impose their will on us willy-nilly. That's what they want. And until I have faith that they are being open and honest, which we know they're not, then that's exactly what we can expect. And that's exactly how, but we ought to make sure that we are open and honest, that we are communicating exactly what it is that we believe and why we believe it to as many people as possible. And that's what we're doing here. That's what Coffee with Craig is all about. That's what the Firearms Policy Coalition is all about. And we really appreciate you guys tuning in. Once again, this is Craig DeLuz. This has been Coffee with Craig. Appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, and passing on the word. Once again, this is Firearms Policy Coalition, Coffee with Craig. This is the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them, or you're going to lose them. Take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.